Dear Creative One, or perhaps you call yourself another name. Right now you might be going to work, feeling like those wings that wished to spread and soar higher are temporarily clipped. Maybe you are a parent, a daughter, a spouse, or any other arrangement of roles that are telling you who you can and can't be, oftentimes telling you what you do and don't have time for. Maybe you heard me calling to you throughout the day, whispering your name in the quiet of the night as your eyes rested upon a book or a ceiling, wondering where the day escaped to. Perhaps it is a low whistle of the wild catching in between the nooks, crannies, corners, and crevices of life. Maybe visions danced before you like sugar plum fairies of the Nutcracker, but only this time you weren't asleep. And I was always around you, wanting you to let me come out and dance in all of the ways I inspired you to do when no one was looking. It is me, your dreams, your visions, the light flicking in the windows of your soul, the smile of satisfaction that never leaves your face, and all other things, small, big, and every other part of me that you wanted to share with the world. The me that was always with you, even when you thought you had to do what everyone else was doing. Or maybe you were just lucky enough to figure it out early and let me out. I'm here to remind you of who you are, what you are. Do you remember?
Hello, Brattleboro. We're here again with interviews that I do. So if you haven't seen the last one that I did, it's because you haven't checked up your stuff. But I do have another one with Lucilena.
You interviewed Lucilena
Yeah,
Marie?
Lucilena.
Oh, I love her.
Lucilena came on. And today we have a special guest, Shanta. How you doing?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm really excited that you came into the show with me and talk about your new website. I don't know if you can see it really good, but it's right there.
Sure. We just launched Wildly Creative. I did it with a team of people. A musical artist who's abroad, whose name Mina Marie, who does progressive intimate folk, and Jay Roberts, who is a web whiz and does all sorts of things. And so all three of us launched a site called wildlycreative.world. And it's a site where basically we want to inspire people to live their creative lives.
Now, creativity is something that, I mean, that's cool, by the way. That sounds really good. So, but creativity is always, to me, is one of those things that sometimes comes and goes. And I wonder what this website it's gonna help. Is it gonna help people be more creative, or?
We're hoping it gives inspiration. What happens a lot of the times as we go to and fro with our regular lives, whether we are, whether you're a father, a daughter, a mother, whether you're a CEO, whether you're someone who's bagging groceries, a lot of the times we put creativity on a pedestal. Like we put it up here. We say, you know what, that's for the artists. Oh, or people say to me all the time, you're so creative, you're such an artist. I actually always make the joke that I don't have to call myself an artist. Other people do that for me. And I do many things. I'm a professional, as you know. There's so many things that I do in the world and that I have done. And what we're hoping to do is inspire. What we're hoping to do is put out the nugget. Are you, for example, there's a recent post I wrote about, are you being seduced by life? Are you being inspired by others? Is there something crawling into your bed at night and whispering to you to go? That's what we're hoping to encourage. This is not a site just for, there are certainly interviews. We have all sorts of people we've interviewed. I have one friend who just graduated law school, and she's doing this great thing of being an artist and, looking at law work and activism and holistic lifestyle. There's so many different people and so many different ways that they inject creativity. Creativity is our birthright as humans. That's how I would put it.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds awesome. That sounds really good. And I also agree. I think we come here to this place to be creators. You know, we
Right.
create by speaking, by writing
Yes.
now. Well, you know, when they invented writing,
Yes.
by making, building.
Even when you put your outfit together, there is this quote. It's certainly not my original idea. There's a quote that talks about everything as art. So whether you're in the kitchen and plating your food, the very act of putting your food on a plate, which I'm guilty that I don't always do that. Whether you're inviting people into your home, whether you are stepping out onto the street and you're getting dressed from head to toe, you are your blank canvas, and your life is your blank canvas, and everything around you is that. How are you going to take your brush, and how are you going to color it? Again, there's been a lot written about this. There are lots of quotes about it, but I think not everybody thinks it's accessible to live it. And so what we're hoping to do is eventually at some point even offering webinars and a way for people to really tap in to infusing their lives, to be wildly creative.
Yeah. Well, that sounds. I mean, I think if we lived in a society where everybody dresses colorful as they wanted to, and
Which I don't
as-
know how colorful I am. I love black.
We're
As-
both wearing black today and hats. We decided that it was gonna be. We
it's
totally.
right.
We wanted this. We wanted to
we
be.
planned our outfits.
Exactly. That's how our creativity was. But so now you do everything, Shanta. You pretty much do. I know you. I don't know, like maybe a year since I moved here, and since then you've done.
All
I don't
sorts
know.
of
All
stuff.
you just did the Slow Living Summit, which
Yep.
that was really nice.
Thank you.
If you were not a part of it or heard about it, it was an amazing summit.
Yeah, it's for years I've done different things like create and implement programs. I've created a couple of after school programs, the Vision Academic Mentoring Program and Rising Stars that connects Trinity College students with middle school students down in Hartford, Connecticut. I created and implemented Planned Parenthood of Southern New England statewide internship program. It was one of the few models that the affiliate or the federation had for internships. So training interns to be activists in reproductive health and justice issues. I moved on from there, talking to parents about how to talk to their kids about sexuality. So overseeing, that's a really tough one. I had to build community partnerships with local government, churches, a lot of entities in New Haven and eventually Rhode Island. Went on to work with the city of New Haven, and we did storytelling. I did a whole campaign of visions of a healthier city. What's your vision of a healthier New Haven? And talking about that job was really with the city of New Haven was talking about how do we become healthier? What are the things that detract from or contribute to our health? I spent 5 months in India. I call it, it was during a moment where at the time I didn't have a job, and I figured I'm going to take a break from the economy and from my country and go abroad. Fell in love with photography when I was there for 5 months. So I do a lot of things professionally. I love to create. I love to birth a lot of different things. I like to put the pieces together and see people come together, like in the recent Slow Living Summit. I was so honored that Orly Munzing asked me to be a part of that and gave me that opportunity. I also do grant writing. I oversee, I'm the director of development at Wyndham Child Care Association. And then I have this creative life that's stitched into all of it. I do my writing, my photography, my belly dancing, and I do media and PR work for several authors and other people in the area and abroad. So whatever dreams or ideas that people have, I guess you could say I like to tell the stories, even in my photography and my writing. And I like to help people put those pieces together and then present it and then get that reach into the world. And I've been very lucky that a lot of people, including a lot of my clients, have wanted me to be a part of their dreams and their visions. It's a very honorable position.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an honorable thing. What else can you do better than helping people achieving their dreams and goals? You know, that's.
It's a very honorable position, and almost daily, people talk to me about either articles I've written or ideas that they had or that they had to meet me because they wanted to talk to me about something, and I am humbled by it. Almost in shock, like me.
You want me to do
Yeah,
this?
you want me to do this, and I'm always the big cheerleader. Like, we're not going to try, we are going to do, and that's what I think it really is about for creativity. It's not trying, it's doing. Just go do it.
Yeah. So now let's go back a little. Let's go way back.
Sure.
Really go back.
Okay.
Like so.
Into my childhood.
Into your childhood.
Okay. Oh,
and,
good question.
And so, where are you from?
Okay.
Where are you from?
I'm originally from Hartford, Connecticut.
Nice.
Yeah.
So that's just a little south of here, right? Well.
Yep, it's right down the 91 corridor, and I grew up right in Hartford. Went to Mark Twain Elementary, which is, I think, now a magnet school. Spent all my life in Hartford. Went to undergrad, Trinity College, right in Hartford. Went to grad school at the University of Hartford, where I studied business for grad, and undergrad was women, gender, and sexuality. So yeah, that's where I'm from originally.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, when have you always been creative? Is there, or was there a point where you're like, the explodes with creativity, or how did it start?
That's a very good question. I was always a child that liked to, I had an imagination for a lot of things. So, for example, I like to play in cemeteries. I like to literally go into cemeteries. As a child,
it's intense.
Yeah, it is intense. When I was younger, I was a very sheltered child. I would say that I used a lot of my imagination. I used a lot of, I envisioned what it was to be like to be an adult. For example, there's this story I like to tell. There was this character who used to come around the house. My parents knew him. His name was Smurf King. His nickname, anyway. I don't know what his real name was. And I remember the way I described him, he looked like sunshine. His skin was the color of sunshine. He wore glasses. And my parents, my mother and my father, and he, they'd stay up till all hours of the night. And this was occasional. So when Smurf King would pop up, they would laugh. They would do dance moves. There were all these things. And from my perspective as a child seeing this, I'm thinking, oh my God, I want in. I don't know what train they're riding, but I want in on that. My imagination would run wild such that when my mother used to make commentary, my mother and father, about different songs that were on the radio, there was a song called The Freaks Come Out at Night by Houdini. It was a rap group from the 1980s. And I thought that I was missing out on fun. You see, I thought that freaks actually people dressed up and went out in the middle of the night and formed these lines down the street just running havoc. And I thought it became a circus after hours. This is what my imagination was very much like. I would have imaginary classrooms as a child. I don't recall having imaginary friends, but I was sort of, I guess I would just create a world in my own head about things, what things were. And because adults didn't really answer my questions and didn't really feed my curiosity, I just sort of fed it and fueled it myself. There were all these things that happened all around me, and I would just fill in the pieces. And there was no one there to really correct it, so I was just sort of like in my head making things up. So I guess you could say that that might be where my creativity sparked. I started writing poetry when I was about 11 or 12 years old. And I've been keeping a journal or a diary since about 13 or 14 years old, journaling all that whole time.
Yeah, and you just showed me that. You just showed me a video of the that's on your website. That's some poetry. which
Yeah.
is pretty cool. The editing was
thank
well.
you.
The words were powerful and
I
right
can't
on
take
it.
credit for that. That's all Mina Marie. She did this amazing job. What we decided to do is instead of having words to explain what the site is about, I did this spoken piece, you know, Dear Creative One. You know, it doesn't matter if you are whoever you are in the world. And if you think your wings have been clipped, we would like to think that we're here to encourage you to get them back again.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, talking about wings and stuff, you once got on a plane, like you were telling me, and went to, I read that you went to also Uganda, Africa as well, right?
I did. I was in Uganda for 2 weeks. There's something interesting that's always happened with my life, and it's happened here in Brattleboro too. And this is leading up to the whole Uganda story. I would always, it's almost like I get to be a witness to different things that would happen, like different events or different happenings. And I would always think to myself, oh my God, that'd be so cool if I get to be a part of it. And then suddenly I am a part of it. So with what happened with Uganda, I'll never forget, Planned Parenthood would have these global partnerships around the globe. And the purpose was to form these partnerships and find out more about family planning in other parts of the world, trade lessons, and then as a part of that, there would be a switch off. So they would host a delegation from the U.S., and then at some point there would be a delegation from that given country, depending on who the affiliate was, that would host them here. So ours was Uganda. I was a part of a steering group that was formed in talking about our global partnership. For a couple of years before that, I'd been, like I told you, I was overseeing that internship program I'd created, and we had global partnership as a part of it, like global reproductive health as a choice for people to intern with us about. Well, so I remember when they were talking about, oh, there's going to be a delegation from our affiliate going to Uganda. In my head, I'm thinking,
that's gonna be me.
I was thinking, that's so cool. I don't think I'm gonna be one of the people, but that's cool. So I went on vacation, and I went to Uganda back in 2007. So in 2006, I think it was August 2006, I go on vacation, come back, and I'm told that, you know, the CEO and my supervisor at the time, they wanted to talk to me, and I'm thinking, oh no, I'm in trouble. They pull me into the office, and of course my heart is beating 1,000,000 miles a minute. I'm thinking, I'm a devil at heart. So I'm like, oh no, I did something, right? And they tell me that I get to be one of the people to go to Uganda. There was only 3 of us. 3. A board member, myself, from the public affairs department, my supervisor who was overseeing public affairs at the time, and that was my first time out of the country. Or, I mean, I think I'd been to Canada by then, but Canada, you know,
it's
but
really
right, it's right there. I take it for granted, right? And it was also, I'd never been to a zoo in my life, and that still stands to be true. That was the first time I'd ever seen elephants, all sorts of animals in their natural habitat. And there's nothing that could take that away. But in addition to that, it was just a great experience to learn about family planning and make these connections over there.
Nice. And then you went to India?
Then I went to India. And funny enough, talking about kernels getting planted, when I went to Uganda, I took a camera with me. It was just a rink-a-dink little digital camera. And I snapped all these pictures and brought them back. And someone said to me, wow, I think you got a new career. I think you got a new profession. Look at these pictures. I said, no, the camera did it. I didn't do that.
Yeah.
India comes. And it was something, it was very interesting. That was interesting in and of itself. I was newly married at the time. So all this craziness. We both didn't have any jobs. All the things that people probably wouldn't do. Like if you have no jobs, you probably wouldn't be going to book a plane ticket to go somewhere. But we did. I treated myself to a Nikon because I said, I'm going to want to take a bunch of pictures. I don't want us fighting over the camera.
Yeah.
I gave him my old camera, bought myself this Nikon, went to India for 5 months, threw out the plans. I was going to do yoga certification. I quit as soon as I got there, before I even got enrolled. I was like, I'm not going to do this. Came back, 5 months, rode trains, planes, automobiles, had a rickshaw accident. It was pretty intense. Yeah. Rode an elephant. All this craziness.
Was there a wild elephant? It was just like.
Well, it wasn't wild, but it was very scary, because they're known for flipping over cars and on the road to Dehradun.
Oh, just because?
Well, they come out of, they're coming out of the forest, and they, the story is they flip over cars. So while I was riding this elephant, I'm just so scared. So here I am in India, wild, crazy. And I get back, and of course what I came back with, in addition to a sitar, is 12,000 photos of all these images and moments I captured in India. It was, once you get a taste of something like that, talk about feeding creativity and talk about feeding the spirit, there's really no going back from that.
Yeah. So you were like, from this moment on, I'm going to take pictures of people. And
it was like, it just sort of, I've always been in love with images. Ever since even when I was a little girl, and in undergrad, when we were reading stories, Margaret Mead's adventures with different tribes and things as a cultural anthropologist, I wanted to do that. I'm not going to say that it's off the table. Who knows? But I always, National Geographic, all these different images, worlds, other worlds, I think that's what I connected with. I couldn't put the camera down. I still don't put the camera down. I would say India definitely was a catalyst for so many things, including, falling in love with photography.
Nice. Also, she's taken pictures of me.
Yeah.
And they're pretty cool. I wish I could show them to you.
Yeah.
But I can't do it. But I can appear it right here. See this picture? She took that picture of me. And not only she did take a picture of me, but then I decided it would be even cooler if I did this. And as you can see, this is a picture of like the world is ending, and this is what she did. Now let's throw it away. But anyways, thank you for taking those pictures of me.
Of course.
Now let's go back to my little notebook of things. All right, so you went to college for sexuality and
women, gender, and sexuality for undergrad, and graduate degree is business. So I have a business degree.
Nice. So do you see some? I feel like sometimes sexual energy is very creative, or like it kind of brings.
I agree.
That. Do you see that kind of connection?
Of course. I think I actually used very sensual language in my recent storytelling about what's seducing you. Last month, I had a conversation with a friend who's in Pakistan, and we were messaging back and forth, and he said, "Tell me about the last time you were seduced." That is very sexual charged and very sensual question. And so I thought about it, and I said, actually, as I thought about that, I don't think I ever answered his question, but it became a post on Wildly Creative. When I was 15 years old, my parents did not talk to me about the so-called, I hate that term, birds and bees, but it's a phrase that people tend to use. They didn't talk to me about those things. They didn't talk to me about relationships. So I had to put the pieces together. I'd steal my mother's romance novels, hide them under my bed. There would be all these different stories I'd come across, including Cleopatra unrolling out of that carpet to, lure someone. I put it in my head that I wanted to seduce the world. At the time, as a 15-year-old girl, and then budding into a 21, 22, 23-year-old, you have no concept of what that really means.
Yeah.
What it became was a tie to the creative. what I sought to do, and how I can put it now more eloquently. I sought to seduce and be seduced by life. Anything that was calling to me, anything that I might usher in, an invitation, if you will. So I answered his question basically. I probably should tell him. He prompted this post, this story I shared about how once 15-year-old me wanted to be a seductress. I still aim to, as in the way of inviting people in creatively. I think we all should aim to be seduced and be seducers through that which we create. Doesn't mean that you have to be, the next Beethoven. It doesn't mean that you're going to write the next great novel. What it means is you let even something as simple as, I don't know, a nighttime sky or air blowing across your skin just sweep you away into a moment. And I know that as life happens, as all these people say it, it's difficult to let that happen, but maybe leave room to be seduced. And so to answer your question about sexual energy, we are sexual beings throughout our whole lifetimes. It's even in our expression of what we present to the world, who we are inside, how we engage with each other. It's with us. So it's not always a negative thing, which is, of course, a stigma in our culture. And I think there's a lot more work that needs to be done even talking about that. But there is a tie to the creative. And, of course, as we know, famous stories of creativity and sexuality blurring together. Yeah. And not always nice, neat, packaged ways.
True. And I think if you see anybody that does anything great, you see somebody that's making pancakes in a really awesome way, flipping them around.
Yeah.
There's this kind of, that's kind of sexy.
Yeah.
But it's just doing something normal.
There's something provocative and inviting about it,
exactly.
right? And there's something juicy about it. It doesn't always mean there's something dark and salacious when we use those words and terms.
Yeah.
It's, you can become entranced, and your beloved actually isn't even always a person. It can be that moment, right? Where you're just entranced and encapsulated. And then that might lead to you wanting to then go create.
True.
Yeah.
And there's many people that I've met that have that inspire me by doing those things. So I guess the message to all of you: just be creative to whatever you want to do. Just be creative and do that thing that you wish to do.
I agree. Like if you have something that you just want to try or do it. Try it. I had a friend. He'll be tickled pink by me sharing his story, actually. He plays video games. He's played video games for many years. I also am. I've had a long dysfunctional relationship with Mario Brothers. So I understand video games to some degree. Well, he's particularly played in these multimedia online games, MMOGs, or role-playing, they're called. And he said to me what video games taught him was that it's okay to just try. And if it didn't work, you could try again. And I mean, of course, in video games, if you die, you can come back and things like that. Unfortunately, there's going to be no reanimation or no zombie things going on. But what he said clicked to me, and what I tie to creativity and a lot of things. A lot of people say to me, they don't know how I have all the energy I do. How do I do all the things?
Yeah, where are the batteries? Where are the batteries that you get on?
I don't have any batteries, and you know what? This is probably bad to say. I don't even take vitamins. I don't. So it's like one of those things. It is true that when you are inspired, that carries you. When you know how and when to say yes. I mean, it's also important to know when to say no, too. So I'm not of the movement that says just say yes. But But yes comes into play when you want to do something and you're not sure how to make room. If you say yes, room will appear. It will all happen. I'm a big believer of that. I've done, when I was telling you that I started those 2 after school programs and that statewide internship, I was doing those things both at the same time.
Wow.
When I was in grad school, I was a public affairs major and in grad school, and I think at one point doing a fellowship.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I left that, I was off doing something else. I always made room because for me, part of what I would like to do in the world is give back.
Mm-hmm.
And part of how I give back is through showing my love and my passion. And I guess, I mean, if I could leave anything, that's part of what I do. But you know what? If you do it, room will appear. Just do it. Just as my friend would say about the video games, just try it. And if it doesn't work, you try something else. Mm-hmm. But you can't, at least you can say, you tried it. You did it. Mm-hmm. And it's not necessarily tying it to some success. I think we get hinged on what, like for example, nowadays with social media, people want to see, well, how popular are you? Mm-hmm. How many hits did you get? If you were able to connect with at least one other person, or you got that message out for yourself because you just wanted to find voice and try, mm-hmm. then I say that was a success in and of itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we kind of we are in I guess, yeah, quantifying how cool you are.
And we've quantified even likes. We've become the likable society.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I love when people, like, it's almost like validation, of course. You see someone like your post or you see someone share your post. I love getting dialogue going. Mm-hmm. But also what's equally important is the people who stop me on the street and say, you know, I did not get a chance to hit like, but I saw what you wrote and it connected with me in some way, shape, or form. And we're able to connect in that way, mm-hmm. which is so valuable to me. So you're right. Yeah. We've become that type of, we've become such a click-heavy society. Mm-hmm. Now that determines your worth and you're a success. It's sad. And I hope we don't totally degrade into that.
Yeah, I think we are definitely moving into like, we are living the trail of things, you know, everything we've always done, it's there. It's like, it's there. So you better start doing awesome things because it's gonna haunt you later.
Well, you've got to be careful. I mean, this is something very interesting, especially with a lot of the stuff I do. I'm so public. I've been public for a really long time, whether it was here or whether it was in New Haven, or, I mean, you can Google my name, so all mm-hmm. sorts of stuff comes up of the work I've done. But it's also, I've seen other people who have a different style than I do. We just have to be very mindful and intentional what we're putting out there. And I'm not coming from the perspective of don't air your dirty laundry, because who would I be to dictate to someone how they find their voice? But it also is about impact. I think, sadly, and I just talked about this with social media being used to public shame, or some parents now using social media mm-hmm. to, you know, march their kids out and teach them how to do the right thing. But it's actually being used as a shaming tool.
Yeah. It's just crazy that some parents, like, that's crazy people would do that.
Well, and I think what it is that in some cases, to the credit of some of these parents in these cases that I'm thinking about, they're fighting for not only their lives, but the lives of their children. And mm-hmm. they're probably feeling like, I'm at a loss, I need to do something. Mm-hmm. But I also find, too, it's become a culture, now that we're behind a screen, we've become more connected and disconnected at the same time. We've never been more connected and disconnected at the same time, so that the screen dehumanizes in a way. I can say whatever I want, right?
Insult.
Be whoever I want, right? Without looking at how it's really harming and infecting and impacting that person. Yet at the same time, I can reach across the ocean and say hi to somebody in a quick way. Mm-hmm. So it's beautiful, but it's also tragic if we don't watch it with some of the things that have happened. with how we're, I would say, abusing this the technology that we have at our fingertips.
Yeah, you know, with they say it all the time. With great power comes great responsibility, and we
Yes.
have like an amazing power now. It's beyond what a lot of people would have imagined even 20 years ago, 15 years ago. You know, like
Right.
maybe not 15 years ago, but you know, like it's crazy how much. I mean, 15 years ago we didn't have smartphones everywhere. Like everybody around the world has them. Around the
They
world.
were in India. I saw people at spiritual services with these big phones. There was a part of me that was heartbroken about that. Even in the backwaters of southern India and Alpi, you better believe people had their smartphones.
Yeah.
There's something a bit heartbreaking about that. Even as someone, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Google Plus. I have several websites. I can actually say I have about 3 websites now.
Nice. It's a lot of websites.
You don't want to know how many email addresses I have. I mean, this is very interesting, and I've had to like cut some of that down. But I still stand by my statement. There is something heartbreaking. And there have been social commentary. There's a famous video circulating showing from sunup to sundown, everyone behind their screens. They get together and they're hanging out, and everybody's on their phones. Everyone gets quiet because they're all together, but they're hanging on their phones. It's sad. It's very unfortunate, and yet at the same time, I see the need for it. We can connect to our family, to our loved ones, and to strangers who need to seek solace in the face of another stranger through Skype. I mean, so it's... I'm not against technology. I just wish, like you said, with great responsibility, with great power comes great responsibility. We need to be more mindful of the responsibility part.
True. And I also think about, you know, for most of human existence and, you know, life itself, really, you know, we lived the day as the sun went up, you know, and then the sun went down, and then we didn't, and we went to sleep. Maybe we would wake up maybe in the middle of the night, because that's something that we've known that humans did, you know, that would wake up in the middle of the night, have this weird, people call it the God hour, when you're really intuitive and creative, and people would do stuff, you know, people would do stuff in the middle of the night, and then go back to sleep and then do stuff, right? But our connection to the light was so important, right? And now, you know, we are in a, well, right now it's during the day, but all day we have light in our homes, in our house, like everywhere.
We've artificially, and the same thing that you're saying is what I used to always talk about. We've artificially extended ourselves, and it's no wonder why people do feel like they can't be creative, or feel like they're tapped out, because we have overextended ourselves. And I think there is a movement now trying to connect more with nature. I think even architects and engineers, when they design buildings, they are now, some of them are being very conscious about getting back into the natural environment and making sure we have access to it, because we are animals. And we do need some accessibility and some engagement with our environment, but it has gone to the extreme. Like, what do you think happens when you stick someone in a building or at a desk for 40 hours? And there is a sickness, I think, that happens to the spirit.
I agree. I think it's the consciousness of this world has, like, we actually become enlightened. We have, like, literally, you know, we are light all the time. And we can,
interesting. I like your play on those words.
And we think that we can do everything, you know, and yes, we can. Yes, we can. But it's I think it's a balance. And I do agree. We are moving into, you know, building homes that light up, you know, at, let's say at 7, they become more red tones and more, you know, more cozy, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to sleep, you know. So that is happening. But yeah, I do wonder what if that's affecting people's creativity, you know.
Yeah, and I do think that when the spirit is so heavy, and I don't mean necessarily in a religious sense or a spiritual babble sense, but I think that when we are just so mired down in our everyday, or with the health work I used to do, and we talked about, what contributed to or detracted from health. It's been proven by many studies, when you're so busy trying to either keep yourself safe, worry about what's on the table for food for you and your family, whether or not you're going to have your job tomorrow, whether or not your children are going to die when they leave the home. Certainly a lot of families of color and a lot of different areas worry about that.
Yeah.
Keeping their little boys and their little girls safe. When you're worried, when you're constantly worried about your most basic needs that everyone should just have access to, there is no surplus. There's no extra for you to then think about writing a journal entry, writing a poem, smelling the flowers that might be fragrant in your kitchen, or even smelling the flowers that might be blooming from spring. There's no time for that when you're on alarm, when there are certain chemicals pumping through your system. Because you see, the way we're built, we were only, for example, adrenaline, it was only to be used for us to get out of dangerous situations, move really quickly, and then calm down, right? And go back to a certain balance. Now you have a generation being bred, most of us, used to staying up here with that. That's not a good thing. So, of course, you won't have then the room to I've been around people who I see how they make space for creating, writing. You're constantly doing it. It's never done. Photography, even when I don't have my camera, I'm always still taking pictures and images. I think in story. But again, if you're constantly worried about these other things that aren't covered, you're at such your spirit can't rest. It can't relax. There was a period in human history where, you see these bursts of creativity, right? The great music that comes out, great pieces of literature, leisure time. We've now become high off of busy time.
Yeah.
Everyone's bragging about how busy they are. I'm guilty of it too. Oh, I'm busy. Oh, I'm doing this. And it, instead of, and luckily I know I'm not a parent, so I don't, my time isn't, I'm not competing with my children and my creativity. I actually get to just focus on all my projects.
So you're babies.
They are. They are. That's how I mother in the world. And it means a lot to me. And something tells me that if I did, again, I don't know how it would play out, but even if there were children on deck, for me, I need it. I actually need my creativity. And we have to find a way to get that message across. That creativity, again, it is a birthright. And I stand by that statement. It feeds our spirit. I've seen people, for example, when they're so happy, engaging in those magical moments. There's a medieval festival that for a couple of years I was a fairy in the Enchanted Woods, and it becomes a Sherwood forest. It's called Mutton and Mead. It's coming right up. It's this amazing event.
It's next week, right, or something?
I think it's in a couple of weeks. I think the weekend of June 21st.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And I'll never forget. I saw we give away like fairy dust, right? Because we're little fairies, right, in the woods. And this little boy runs back to his mother and says, "Look, Mommy, she gave me fairy dust." And it almost brought tears to my eyes because, and even the adults got in on it. We want some fairy dust. Imagine what the world would be like if we knew we had access to that fairy dust.
Yeah.
And which we do. And I may sound crazy for saying this, but we actually do. It's just we need to somehow get the message across. Like, busy isn't where it's at.
Yeah.
And true to even the message of what I just organized, the Slow Living Summit, about being present and mindful and giving back to yourself and your neighbor and your community, that also includes creativity, you know, and that is a giving back to yourself. It's allowing you to play. It's allowing you to go back to that space. What was it like to play? Even we have a post about that too on Roundly Creative. When is the last time you played? And a child about a month and a half ago just asked me that. She said, "Are you coming to play with us?" She asked. And again, it was so sweet and endearing. And I thought to myself, when, you know, and I will say, I do make sure I play.
That's good. Playing is really good.
Yeah.
It's important.
So yeah, I do think that, like you talked about, how we've extended ourselves also is hampering the way we engage with the world, and how we engage with our own creativity and allowing it to come out.
So let's get cracking.
Sure.
What are some tips for creativity?
Yay, I get to say
What can what would help the people watching right now, help them be more creative?
This is going to sound very funny, ironic coming from me, because anyone who sees me moving around town, they know I move like shoo. Have still moments. Be still. Even if it's just for a moment. Even if it's at your desk. Even if you have to get up and take a walk away from your desk or wherever that moment is. I'm not going to tell you to run out of the house with your screaming children, because, you know, you might get in trouble for that. But if there's someone that gives you release and you're a parent, I find being still is very helpful, because the way the brain works, when you're relaxed, there's a reason that there are all these articles about exercise and movement and stepping away. When you're relaxed, that's when ideas do come. That's when there's, you know, they talk about the light bulb moment. It's because you're not forcing it. I would also say plant your garden very carefully. I know nothing about gardening, so real gardening, but metaphorically. Be very mindful about the people, places, and things that nurture you and that you nurture. Guaranteed that also does feed creativity. Are they things that inspire you or tire you? Does it inspire you or does it tire you? Because guarantee if it inspires you, you'll find little nuggets. Again, I'm not saying that now you're going to go launch websites and now you're going to do, but maybe it'll give you a moment just to see something a bit differently. I would say also being comfortable in your skin is that.
Loving yourself, kind of.
Yeah, which is a lifelong struggle, I understand. Being in relationship with yourself is a long-term dysfunctional relationship. It's a rough one. It's a hard one. But I would say any moment you can give back to yourself and be comfortable with yourself and unzip yourself, that is also allowing you to unzip some creativity as well. Things about yourself that you probably would be surprised about, that you've kind of been holding back. Taking those moments. I would say, I'm going to keep it very simple, so those would be my key pieces of advice. Those are, excuse me, those are things that I've done in my life, and I would encourage, and because I'm still on the slow living high, going back to the slow living thing, it is about being present. There is a quote that talks about, it's a Buddhist quote, if you're washing dishes, just wash the dishes.
Nothing else.
You're right. If you're having a conversation, just have that conversation.
Yeah.
I think we don't do enough of that. Again, I'm guilty. I'm
Yeah.
not saying anything that I don't struggle with.
Yeah.
I'm just as guilty. But those would be my tips on how to live what I like to call a wildly creative life.
Cool. Well, you heard them here, and if you see them somewhere else, have they copyright?
Well,
No, not. Okay. You can use them though. You can use them.
Go ahead, share it. Sprinkle it around like fairy dust.
Cool. Well, we're closing up to the end of this interview, which has been awesome.
Thank you
But,
so much. I'm so honored you had me on.
But before, thank you for coming. But before we go on, I would like to ask you, what are your, I don't know, other projects that are coming other than this?
I have an art show coming up that will be going on July and August at Flat Street. It's going to be my photography that's going to be up. You'll definitely be hearing more from Wildly Creative. So if you're also a creative in any capacity, actually, and you don't even have to be in Brattleboro, get in contact with me. I'd love to interview you for the site. We also will take writing submissions. I would say I'm going to be working on other stuff that comes down the pike. I'm known as Shanta Lee on Facebook. You can find me. You can find me pretty much anywhere.
Put in all these links right now, by the way.
Yeah. So, I would say those are the different ways that you can engage with me and see what's next. Watch my Facebook. I share a lot of stuff on there. My writing, Real Talk, Reformer 802 Real Talk is the piece that I have, the blog. And I do Ponder This, Green Mountain Mornings with Chris Lenoir. So I do that every
Chris is a
Wednesday.
good guy. Yeah,
Yeah, I
met
love
him
Chris.
once. Yeah.
Yep. Those are different places where you can see me, hear me, talk to me, find me. And if you see me in the street, just talk to me. I'm very visual.
Yeah, you'll see her around.
Yeah.
Is this gallery the Perfect Imperfection?
No, this is different from Perfect Imperfection. It's just my own work.
Okay.
Separate from Perfect Imperfection, which is, as everyone knows, a project with Liz Livornia and I'm involved. That's right here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're all perfect imperfectly.
Yeah,
Something like
perfectly
that, right?
imperfect. Mm-hmm.
Well, Shanta, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming and watching this stuff. I guess I should go to this camera over here. There we go. Thank you for staying with us in this hour. And please stay tuned. You can also follow me on this Twitter and on this other thing and all this information that I'm putting. And stay tuned. Maybe I'll have some other musical guests and more stuff. But again, today, Shanta, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Good. Bye-bye.